these dial-and-spray hose and adapters for application. Now, I did a review of these, and here's the video, and this is sort of to supplement that video, or this one's to supplement the other, vice versa. But this is not just simply turn the dial and off you go. There are other factors involved, okay? One is the speed of your walk. Obviously, the faster you walk, the less herbicide you're going to put out, or the slower you walk, the more you're going to put out. So you could actually be walking too slowly, and I'm going to show you how to know how fast to walk. You could be walking too slow and put too much out and damage your yard, or not, or we'll be walking too fast and put out too much. In addition, how do you apply it? Some folks go back and forth. I've seen some landscape, some of the paid landscape guys around here. That's how they do it, and that is one way to do it. But I'm going to show you in this video, particularly with this one, this Ortho Dial-N-Spray, which I like a lot, how to do this in a good way to make sure you're overlapping correctly, and how to test yourself. There's actually an easy way to do this. I'm going to show you all that in this video. And if you use these principles, you're going to be able to put this out pretty doggone well. But I'm just going to use this Ortho Dial-N-Spray. Now, the reason being, like I was saying, on the pressure of your hose, I'm going to give an example. I have this Chapman. I actually have two of them. One's over there, and I'm going to get it. But anyway, the one thing about this Chapman is, and I mentioned this on my review video, this one requires at least 40 pounds of pressure going through your garden hose. So you can see, because I did not have 40 PSI going through my garden hose, this one does not require this Ortho Dial-N-Spray, okay? It can use at lower pressures. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you are selecting one of these. There again, I'm going to leave links to all of these down below, but I do recommend Ortho Dial-N-Spray because it does work at lower pressure. So you're getting very uniform coverage, and you can see it here on these as far as how well the Ortho is putting things out. Okay, so that's a little bit about pressure. Now let's talk about the nozzles. And there again, I'm going to stick to this one because this is one I like. You do have this sort of like a kind of like a garden hose type spray. Okay, it's sort of like the shower one on your spray nozzle. That's not a bad way to put it out, and that's the one I showed you as far as the pressure. However, and you can put that one out, and some people go back and forth with that. The only thing about going back and forth using that, you have a tendency to kind of overspray to your far right and overspray to your far left, and then in the center you don't put as much out. So you're putting maybe too much out on the outside because it's staying there a little bit longer than it is when it's sweeping across you. So that's why this one also has a jet, which you would never use when putting out pesticides that I know of, unless maybe you're putting an insecticide in here, knock out a hornet's nest or something like that. But you'd never use on turf. So what I'm going to use, what I would recommend you use this fan one. Okay, yeah, I crushed the devil out of my finger and it's still there, so you can see it in my last 3 or 4 videos. You'll be able to grow out. Anyway, use this fan, and the reason why I use this fan is you can walk and you can keep this right at waist height, and it will give you a pretty uniform spray. I'm going to go over the uniformity and how to determine that here in just a second. So I like that spray nozzle. Now let's talk about the actual dial itself. Okay, so you have on here 1 ounce, okay? You also have 1.5 ounces, 2 ounces, 2.5 ounces, 3 ounces, 4 ounces, and it goes clear up to 8. That means how much of the concentrate that is in here is going out for every gallon that comes out of the nozzle, okay? Majority of pesticides require around a gallon of spray volume per 1,000 square feet of the area you're treating. It usually needs at least that much to make sure that you're getting good coverage. Some of them are as much as 2 gallons per 1,000 square feet, but usually a gallon. Read the pesticide label to find this out, but usually a gallon will cover you for the majority of pesticides that you use. In these, you can use just about any concentrate that you can find. You can use professional products. That's one of the great things about this. This will save you money and time. This will save you money, and not only will save you time, because if you do these with a backpack sprayer, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to have to, in order to get a gallon of spray volume per 1,000, and you have 8,000 square feet, that means you're going to have to fill up your backpack sprayer twice. in one of these, I can actually fill this up. We'll talk about filling up here in a second. I can fill this up and I'm done. All I got to do is hook my hose up and I can get the whole yard done without going back. And that will not only help you as far as convenience, and particularly when you got a 1 gallon sprayer, but you have to go back, gosh, you have to go back 8 times. But not only help you with convenience, but also uniformity, because, you know, by the time you get back, you take your backpack sprayer off, you go back, you mix things back up, and you go back out in your yard. Unless you know, I usually do my spraying with a ball cap in case something happens. And if I do, I usually put my, like I do here in the spreader. Like, let's say I was spreading or spraying and something happened. I had a malfunction, kid came out of the house, pet came out of the house, whatever. And I had to stop for some reason. I used to take my ball cap off and put it right exactly where I was. So that way I know where to get back to. And I usually put my bill at the direction I was going. So that also helps you if something happens, you have a malfunction or the hose gets kinked or something weird, at least that way you have the location and the direction you were going. That helps out a lot, because I've luckily not lost grass that way, but I have missed a few things. Years ago, I said this in one other video, when I was a golf course superintendent, and I'll tell you how tricky it can be. I was putting things out with a sprayer. And what I was doing, I was on, it was in the fairway. It was pre-murdered herbicides, what it was. And I stood on the 8th tee of this course, and I was looking at the distance. I saw this weird little area got wide, and then it got narrow again. And I thought, what in the world is that? So I got up there, and this was late June, and sure enough, it was crabgrass coming up. And what happened was, when I was on the sprayer, I did not overlap enough. I must have got distracted, hard to tell. But I didn't overlap from my last pass, and there was an area, it was, I mean, it started out as thin as it possibly could, widened out, and it was fairly long, and then went back together. And that's what I'm saying. If you don't overlap correctly, you can have areas that go untreated, or not, or not. You don't put enough out and won't get your treatment done. So you can have some uniformity when you're putting out spray volume. So use a little ball cap trick that'll show you. Now, as far as the calibration itself, okay, here's what you can do. We're talking about spraying now. When you put this out, practice first. Don't just grab it, fill it up, off you go. How you want to practice is this. You want to go out on a reasonably warm day and go out, you know, with some on your asphalt. When you first get your sprayer in, go out on your asphalt, just use water only, obviously, and you want to spray that asphalt. What you're going to do then is you're going to go at a nice even pace, as I'm going here, spray the asphalt with water, then wait and watch and see how it evaporates off. Okay, I actually did these in November. It's November now. It's a good time for me to do this kind of stuff because there's not a whole lot you can do in your yard. During the summer, it's really good because you get almost instantaneous results, like in June or July. In areas that evaporate off faster, or that you're putting out less volume, those will evaporate off first. So if you have an ununiform coverage on, it'll show up in the evaporation. For example, I went out there and when I was doing this video, I kind of messed up, and the hose, you can see here in this picture, the hose was bouncing off my back leg as I was, and it was going like this, okay? And what was happening is I got this spray pattern because it was bouncing like this. You want to keep that steady. So even I, doing a video about how to calibrate a sprayer, even messed up there. So kind of learned something. So it really does give you a very good idea of the uniformity that you're putting this out at. Now, as far as overlapping, this one at least with my pressure, and I was using a 100-foot garden hose. This is something else. Whatever length of garden hose you're going to use for your spray, use the same length of garden hose when you're doing the calibration. The reason being is the longer that hose is going to be, the less pressure you're going to have going through the unit. If you use a 25-foot hose, you're going to have a lot more pressure and potentially more volume out of these than what you would if you use the 100-foot hose. And probably you're going to be using a 100-foot hose, you can do your entire yard, or you may just hook up in the front yard and do the 50 and whatever. Just be sure you use the same amount of hose when you calibrate. So what you want to do, you want to go ahead and you want to overlap correctly as well. Not too much, not too little. Now, what I have found with this one is generally what I call my effective width, and you will kind of see it initially. Roughly, I am 6 foot tall. I kept this on the fan at about waist height. My entire spray swath, if you will, was around 6 feet. On my second pass, I saw, because the way it evaporated, I don't want to overlap. Generally, you overlap 50%, meaning the very edge of the spray you want in the middle of the other one. I found with this one, with my pressure, I didn't want to do that. My entire spray swath was about 6 feet. I only really wanted to overlap about 2 foot of that ballpark. Okay, not completely spraying in the center of my last pass, but just about in that 2 foot range is how much I want to spray. And you can play around with this a little bit, particularly on a hot day, and know exactly how much you need to overlap. Okay, now that's overlapping. Now let's talk about speed. Now, you'll get a pretty good vibe when this evaporates. I found that my effective spray width is about 5 feet on this. Okay, so my total was 5. My total was 6. My active width is going to be around that 5 foot range. So, how do I know about speed? Since my effective width is 5 foot, I'm doing 5 foot with each pass. So all I need to do is I need to mark 200 feet. And then I need to walk that distance. And I need to time myself in that distance. Okay? How do I know what time it is? Okay, you're very simple. You take a bucket. Now I put some food coloring in here, that's why it's blue. But you take a bucket and you put a timer on it. And you hook your garden hose, the same length you're going to use when you spray, okay? And you're going to time yourself with a stopwatch. And it turns out with me, it takes, with 100 foot of hose on my water line, it's like 22.9. So 23 seconds it takes to spray a gallon out of this Ortho Dial-N-Spray. So what I need to do now, since my effective width is 5 foot, I need 1,000 square feet because I want to put out a gallon per 1,000 square feet. I need to walk 200 feet in 23 seconds. Real simple. And I would recommend, you could do it on, you can do it and you could probably do it on the asphalt, but you probably, not too particular, not too precise, but ideally, you want to probably walk on grass because you might be walking a little slow, maybe just a hair. I will say, if you are 10% above the recommended rate or 10% below the recommended rate, you're not going to hurt your grass and you're going to get fairly decent control. So, don't panic on this. I'm being rather particular on it because I'm a former golf course superintendent and spray bent grass putting greens. And if you look at just about every herbicide label that you could possibly find, majority of them say, do not spray on bent grass putting greens. There's a reason. They are extremely sensitive. And if you lose putting greens, you spray them and smoke all 18 putting greens, your career is pretty much over. So I'm picky about about calibration. But there again, don't panic about this. But me saying this, I was not a big fan of these. And the reason I sort of went, well, I'm going to give it a shot is, and I said this in my review video, I had a sprayer that I totally started together for a small golf course that I was helping out with. I actually built the thing. And I gave it away last year because it was in my backyard and I wanted to get rid of it. So now I'm trying to figure out how to spray a very large area, particularly a football field, with a backpack sprayer, and that's just not practical. This, I can go out and I can put 32 ounces in this and I can spray 32,000 square feet fairly accurately. So that's why I started really looking at these. But yeah, there is a difference in these. There really is a difference in these. And I recommend the Ortho Dial-N-Spray. I'm not getting anything from Ortho on that at all. It's just giving you the best advice I can possibly give you. Now, anyway, as far as anything that you need to clean these up. Clean these out when you're done. If you don't, they can get a little gummed up. That will affect the performance. Now, I will say, and I think it's this one. Yes, there are some. This one, this Chapin wet and dry sprayer, this one requires 40 psi. That's why I showed you the spray. This one requires a pretty high pressure of spray, but this one says it does dry pesticides and probably more of granular liquid concentrate, but that's probably more geared towards fertilizer, I would think. There is wettable powders that are, and you can find wettable powder insecticides and fungicides. I don't know a whole lot of wettable powder or powderable herbicides, but I probably would not use those. I didn't even like them when I had golf courses. The only one I used wettable powder was actually something for pythium control, and it really gummed up the sprayer. This one has the strainer on it, which is nice that they did include that. This is actually pretty good construction, and Chapman's a pretty good brand. So anyway, that being said, I try to stay clear of those. I wouldn't use a powder. Just go ahead. There's plenty of liquids out there. Some that, and I don't know a whole lot of wettable powders that is labeled for home lawn residential use anyway. Most of them are for commercial use, and you can't put them on your yard anyway. But I'm just letting you know. Now, the last thing I'll give you here. One thing you need to keep in mind when you are putting this out on your yard, okay? That's why I left the liquid in here. I'm going to show you this. I did a little different thing on my review video. But if let's say you do 8,000 square feet and you don't want to put just 8 ounces in here and off you go. The reason being is if you angle this thing, okay, let's say you're putting it out, and I'm doing a little extreme angling here, but nevertheless, see what the nozzle's doing. You want to be sure that's obvious. And look how much I got to get it. I've almost, you know, if I get down to a few ounces, the way this thing's curved, it's not going to get in there, and you're not going to have any idea until a day or two later, or that you're not putting anything out because the weeds are going to be not doing the thing or whatever you're putting out. So fill this up. If you have, I tell you, I'd double it. If I would make sure that when I was done, I had at least, in looking at this bottle, I would have at least 10 ounces left in there. And all you got to do is just, pardon me, pour it back into its original container. Don't put it in another one. Put it in the original container. Reason being is you want the instructions. You want to know what it is. You put it in a drinking bottle. You know, there are some pesticides that look like Sprite or Mountain Dew or whatever, and a kid comes by thinking, well, it's, you know, drink it or whatever. Never store pesticides in anything else other than the container that it came in. If by some weird chance, twist of fate, you know, that the container becomes damaged, what you could do, you could take the label off of that container and really put it in something that is chemically, that, you know, you could put it in another container maybe you didn't use, okay, a pesticide container. Put it in a fairly robust plastic container and put that label on it and stick it on there so that way you know exactly what it is, you know the rate, you know the chemical and everything else. Not only be safe, and it's the law, it also save you some money because you get it 2 months down the road, you go, what's this? And next thing you know, throw it in the landfill. Now you've got to concentrate in the landfill. You don't want that either. Anyway, so I'm getting off my soapbox here. So anyway, I have over 6,000 subscribers now. I've been at this for a little over a year. I am a North Carolina State University graduate, over 30 years experience in golf course maintenance and construction, and started my YouTube channel in July of 2023. I think it was 2020. Yes, 2023. So doing very well. If you subscribe and hit the like button, if you subscribe and hit the bell, you will get notification of my videos when they come out. I generally make videos about 2 weeks before you're supposed to be doing something. 2 weeks before you're supposed to be doing your grub control, fungal control. I did a overseeding video in late August. If you hit that bell, you will at least get a notification I got a video out, and it'll give you an idea. Hey, this is coming up, something you might want to think about. You know, and some of these things, you order them, and just your time and being able to put them out, you'll get a little bit of a heads up and be able to get, you know, work that into your schedule, get the products in from Amazon or your local store or whatever, and you know, it'll really help you out if you do that. And be sure to like if you have used these or whatever chemicals you've used in them. Please put them in the comments. I really enjoy people's comments. I get a lot of good feedback. It gives me an idea of videos to make, or maybe I've learned a thing or two. I certainly don't know everything. No, as anyone else for that matter. So anyway, I really appreciate you watching. I hope this helps. This is going to save you a lot of time, money, and really diversify what you could put out on your yard in a big way. So, and that'll save you a bunch of money too, and kick you up to the next notch. So anyway, I'm agronomist Greg Phillips. Thanks.